Hello everyone, as you know I've been using the XP Deus 2 now for quite some time and I've picked out quite a few little top tips which I'd like to share with you. One thing I've noticed is coming from the Deus 1 to a Deus 2, there's a few things you need to know and this is what this video is all about. So without any further ado, let's get started. You probably remember a little time back I've done a video explaining on how other people's custom Deus 1 and Deus 2 programs might not be suitable for your ground. And that's what this video is all about really. It's about getting the most out of your Deus, and there's a few things you may have not even thought of regarding performance in the field. So let's start by talking about frequencies. Deus 2 to start off with, well, that uses higher and lower bands of frequencies for the first few programs. The Park program and the DPHC use a slightly different band, a lower band. And the Deus 1, as you know, has got a selectable frequency, but I just wanted to point out that all frequencies find all targets. It's the ground and the mineralization what dictate the performance. So what I'm saying here is try not to overthink frequencies at this point, because I think there's some more important features that you should be looking at. Now, when I go onto a new field, the first thing I tend to adjust or pay attention to is the reactivity. Now, a lower reactivity can indeed give you more depth, but certain sites won't allow you to use a lower reactivity. For example, we see all these static tests and they're great fun, they're a really good confidence builder, but they are a static test, whereas the real test is when you're actually swinging the machine in the field. So what I'm saying is if you use a lower reactivity, you can get more performance, but when you're actually swinging the machine, the reactivity can make the machine go out of shape if it's too low. So there's a stubble field just over there. Let's do a little reactivity test. So here we go, I'm using the sensitive program with no adjustments made, and the sensitive program uses a 2.5 reactivity. Can you see it there? Okay, so this is 2.5. Everything's standard, and we're in that horrible stubble again. Iron. Let's find a clear patch of stubble and we can demonstrate what happens when we get this reactivity too low. So just take a mental note of that. The machine's, yeah, pretty stable. There's a signal there. I'll come back to that one. So, okay, pretty stable. Now let's go all the way down to 0. Just for argument's sake. Now that machine is so sweet at 0, you could never run the Deus 1 with these settings. It's because there's very little iron there. So theoretically at 0 your machine should be the most unstable. So let's get it on a little busy patch and see if it changes. Here we go, we're on a bit of a busy patch, still reactivity 0. I'll just turn that volume up for you actually, just so you can hear it. Maximum. Reactivity 0. Can you hear these false chirps? The stubble's not helping obviously, but right, now let's go up to reactivity 2, see if it's made any difference. It's made a little bit of difference, 2.5. I could live with that. So let's go up one more, reactivity 3. Can you see all this false shouting has faded out? The higher the reactivity goes, the quieter the machine becomes. So you've got to just balance it and get that sweet spot and find what reactivity settings best for that field. I know we all want to go deep, lower reactivity, deeper, yeah, but do you want to punish yourself at the same time? Right, let's go down to 0 again, just to demonstrate it straight away. So in this instance, I think, I'm sure you'll agree with me, 2.5 or 3 is the go-to setting for this field. So that's going to be the start of my custom program. Reactivity 2.5. And there you've got the buzz coming through. 2.5 or 3, and now we can look at some other features. Okay, that test was on the Deus 2, but also the same applies to your Deus 1. Now, I think with the Deus 1, the reactivity sweet spot was probably reactivity 3, whereas the Deus 2 differs so much to the Deus 1. The sweet spot is anywhere between 1.5 and 2.5 for my land, but you need to bear in mind adjusting reactivity can depend on certain site conditions. For example, if the ground's all baked dry like it is here because we haven't had rain for weeks, then you can probably get away with a lower reactivity. However, if the ground's been ploughed up or it's very, very wet, the minerals system then has changed drastically and it can play havoc on your machine. So that's the first thing I do. I'd adjust that reactivity to suit the site on that particular day, and the machine tends to tell you when you've got it right or wrong. Now let's talk about the second thing I tend to adjust when I've got my reactivity right, and that's the sensitivity. Okay, we all want maximum sensitivity because we all want maximum depth, but as we said so many times in the past, this isn't always the case. Try and raise your sensitivity up as high as you can, but please bear in mind that the high levels of sensitivity will start introducing EMI. And there's a little top tip here for you. You can do a noise cancel by pressing the GB button. Press and hold the GB button and it'll do an automatic noise cancel to find your clean channel. And then you might be able to get the sensitivity up a couple of spots more. And also with your Deus 1, you can try raising the sensitivity until it starts getting a little bit out of shape, and then go into the frequency shift and then slightly shift the frequencies left or right and try and find a cleaner channel. And then you know you've got your Deus 1 running on the absolute edge. Now the next thing I really need to touch on is the silencer. The silencer can be a little bit difficult to get your head round, but once you step back and think about it, it's really quite simple. The silencer filters out the smaller iron. Now, typically you'd think small iron wouldn't give me a problem, but some small misshaped iron can be really, really troublesome for a metal detector. I'll tell you what, let's go on to that stubble again and just do a reactivity test just to give you the heads up on what it's all about. And you'll find it's really easy to understand after this short demonstration. As with all these settings, if you're new to the XP Deus, repetition is indeed the key to learning. Just run through these settings, become familiar with them and what they do, so when you get out into the field, there's not a big panic. Look at this small piece of iron. It doesn't look threatening at all, but it can cause big problems to your metal detector, especially if there's loads of them close together. I'm just going to place the nail on this lid now, and let's run through the silencer settings and let you hear the difference a silencer makes. So okay, let's go into discrimination, expert, and we'll find the silencer under the expert menu, and it's silencer of 2. Let's go down to 0. can you hear how it's still telling you it's iron, but it's really clipping through. It's what we call cracking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Back to 0. And you wanted to hear the same test on the sensitive, didn't you? So here we go. Silencer of 1 on a sensitive program. Let's go to 0. 1, factory default. 2, 3, 4. It's already gone, isn't it? So there's no point doing a 5 and a 6 really. Well, there you go. That was a brilliant little experiment, wasn't it? And that shows exactly what the silencer does. Now the silencer, like I said, works in harmony with the bottle cap reject for different types of iron. So I think if you look at it, the silencer will deal with a small iron, the bottle cap reject will deal with the big iron, so you can work the two together depending on your site. But if you don't mind hearing that crack coming through, run the silencer at 0 or just feather it into 1 maybe. So that's what the silencer does. Well, that's the silencer. The same applies for the Deus 1 as it did for the Deus 2, but the Deus 2 uses a different silencer because it's multi-frequency. A lot of people ask me, what's the Deus 2 like compared to the Deus 1? And that's a fatal mistake, because I don't think we should really be comparing the two machines because they're on different platforms altogether. The Deus 1, you could get it running out of shape, popping and squeaking, and still be in control of that machine. For example, the Sonar program, whereas the Deus 2 is very much like other multi-frequency machines. You need to let the machine do the work. So different platforms, they need a different approach, but one thing's for sure, all these little adjustments all go into one big mixing pot to make your own custom program that suits you. And don't forget to save it. And another thing, don't forget to write your custom programs down, because if you update, you will lose all your settings. So that's it from me. I hope this video has given you a little bit of insight to some important features when you first get out onto the field. Well, that's it for me, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you indeed for your continued support, and I'll see you in the field very, very soon. Bye for now.